When it comes to mid-size crossovers and SUVs, the Kia Sorento is not too well known in the local market. It's quite a shame really, since this mid-size SUV is a capable and reliable performer. I should know, I owned the 2011 Kia Sorento for nearly 10 years. In this video, we check out the top spec Kia Sorento EX 4x4 AT and see if it could still give the competition a run for its money. Let's do this! Hello guys, I'm Reagan and welcome back to another car review. If you're new to my channel, I hope you hit that subscribe button and become part of the Reagan's Rides Army. If you're my subscriber already, thank you so much for your support by watching this video. I also hope that you give it a like. Also special thanks to Kia Philippines for lending us this Kia Sorento 4x4 EX80 for the weekend so that I can do this awesome review. If you have any inquiries at all for any of the Kia lineup, I'll put their contact details in my description below. Now before anything else, this is not the all-new 4th generation Kia Sorento that has been unveiled in other markets last 2020. This is still the 3rd generation model, and while we expect to get the 4th generation Sorento in our shores sometime this year, well, this current model still offers a great value proposition. This top-spec Kia Sorento EX 4x4 AT retails for 2,195,000 Philippine pesos. But since it's already the outgoing model, you could expect to get some pretty fantastic deals on this current model Kia Sorento. Now when you look at the overall styling of the 3rd generation Sorento, you could see why it didn't fare too well, especially against brutish mid-size SUVs. The 3rd generation Sorento has this soft, roundish look to it that makes it look like a smaller Kia Grand Carnival. Sure, you have your long hood here and you have this gorgeous multi-eye headlight assembly, which by the way are LED headlights. This top-spec Kia Sorento also has LED DRLs and you also get halogen fog lights as standard equipment. However, I still couldn't get over the fact that when I look at this Kia Sorento, it really looks like a squat minivan or even a large hatchback depending on how you look at it. In fact, my 2nd generation Kia Sorento looked more like an SUV than this 3rd generation model. Now this 3rd generation Sorento lost some height because it's actually lower than the 2nd generation Sorento. This overall lower ride height was meant to give this Sorento more of a better handling and aerodynamics, which we'll get to a bit later during the drive impression. Now this lower ride height also gives it more of a crossover feel, similar to, let's say, the Mazda CX8. Now this top-spec Sorento EX that I have here has power folding side mirrors with LED side repeaters, and even if it has a lower ride height, the ground clearance is still a healthy 180 millimeters. This top-spec variant also gets larger wheels because these are 18-inch wheels and they're wrapped in 235/60 R18 tires. Behind those wheels, we get disc brakes on all 4 corners, and for your suspension setup, we have a MacPherson system up front and a multi-link rear suspension at the back. Now one of the advantages of having a low crossover SUV is the fact that it would be easier to load stuff in and out of your trunk. Now, given the fact that the Sorento is a long and wide vehicle, especially well for the mid-size crossover class, well, you get tons of space inside your trunk of the Sorento. Now, before I pop open this liftgate, it's important to note that this top-spec EX trim gets these nice and gorgeous LED taillight assembly, and you also have a smart power liftgate as well. No need to open it with a key fob. You just have to stand behind your Sorento for a few seconds, and when the car detects the key fob, it will automatically open the liftgate for you. No need to do any of those fancy dancing footwork underneath the rear bumper to get the job done. Now when you pop open this smart power liftgate, you'll see that the Sorento is a 3-row SUV or crossover, and with the 3rd row in use, you get 320 liters of usable space. How usable is it? Let's see if it can fit my medium-sized luggage. I have with me here my medium-sized luggage, and with the 3rd row in use, you can see that it could easily fit my medium-sized luggage, and there's still some room to spare on the sides for other smaller items. Now, if you need more space than 320 liters can provide, well, you could always tumble down the 3rd row seats here and that should give you over 1,000 liters of cargo capacity. That is pretty substantial, guys, and that could easily fit 4 medium-sized luggage with some more room to spare. Now the good thing here is the second row seats of the Sorento also fold flat to the floor, so in case you need more space than over 1,000 liters, you could double that to over 2,000 liters by folding down the second row seats of the Sorento. All Kia Sorentos in the Philippines get only a single engine option, and that's this 2.2-liter turbo diesel 4-cylinder engine that puts out 197 horses and 441 Newton meters of torque. Now, this top-spec Sorento EX is the all-wheel drive variant, so power is sent to all 4 wheels via an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, mind you guys, this is not the full-time all-wheel drive systems that we find in other manufacturers, but this is more of an in-demand all-wheel drive system where power is sent normally to the front wheels, but if the car detects some slippage in the front tires, then it can send power to the rear wheels as well. Now, fuel economy is pretty good for such a heavy vehicle because during this weekend run that I've had the Sorento, I was able to get 15 kilometers per liter in the highway and around 7 kilometers per liter in the city. Now, mind you guys, both of these fuel economy figures were done while I was driving the Sorento with a full load of passengers. I mean, I had 6 passengers with me and our luggage as well. Plus, I had sport mode on all the time. The cockpit area of the Sorento is simple, straightforward, and has a decent level of kit and materials. Now, I love the seats, guys. These are power leather seats with aggressive bolstering on the sides of your body, but not too aggressive when it comes to the thighs. The front passenger, though, has to make do with manual adjustments, so that's a little bit of a bummer for me. Now, the feel of this cockpit space is also quite generous, with a good amount of space here that can accommodate larger people than myself. Well, I'm not really surprised with this because the Kia Sorento is a global model after all, so it should be able to accommodate people of different shapes and sizes. Now, when you look at the steering wheel, we have a nicely leather-wrapped steering wheel here. This is a 4-spoke design, and we also have the usual buttons for your hands-free calling and cruise control. Now, another good thing about the steering wheel is that it adjusts for tilt, and it also telescopes. So that means that if you couple that with the power adjustments in your driver's seat, well, finding the perfect driving position would be quite easy in the Kia Sorento. Now, when you look at the instrument gauge cluster here, we have a full analog system here with a smallish black and white TFT display in the middle for your vital stats. Now, if you find that that LCD display is on the small side, well, especially in today's times, wait till you see the infotainment screen. You see, your infotainment system is a 7-inch touchscreen display here that thankfully has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and it also has a reverse camera. The thing is, it's a little bit on the smallish side, guys, so if only this thing grew by a couple of inches, then it would be perfectly sized. Now, that's a phrase that no man ever wants to hear, especially from their lady friends. Now, moving from your infotainment system, you go down to your dual-zone automatic climate control system here, and I'm happy to see that the Sorento has a ton of cubbies found here in the center stack. You've got a large cubby here in front of the shifter, which houses your charging outlets. You've got a couple of 12-volt outlets here and a USB charging port. And beside your shifter, you got a couple of cup holders, which we will subject to our clean canteen test. We'll see. The cup holder up front doesn't pass. It doesn't fit the clean canteen. The cup holder at the back easily fits the clean canteen. So because one cup holder fits the clean canteen, well, I will give it a big pass. Now, we also have a nice leather wrap center armrest here with, of course, a cubby there in the middle. Now, if you look at the cockpit layout and the cabin materials used, I'm happy to see that this Kia Sorento has a nice leather wrapped dashboard here, and top dashboard and middle dashboard. Even the tops of the door cards are nicely wrapped in leather, making these very soft touch area, as well as the elbow rest here on the door cards. So yes, despite looking pretty simple and straightforward, well, the Sorento has a good level of cabin materials and tech in the cockpit. The second row of the Sorento is nice and spacious, as you can see here. As everyone knows already by now, I'm 5'6" guys, and this is my driving position, and I got a good and generous 7 inches of knee room before my knee touches the seat back of the driver. I also have a good 6 inches of headroom, which is pretty phenomenal considering the lower roof line of this third generation Sorento. Now, you could put 3 average size adults quite easily here, and the fact that we don't really have a center tunnel means that the third person, the middle guy, would not have a hard time sitting here, well, in the middle. When it comes to toys, guys, you've got a good amount of toys here. You've got a couple of rear AC vents. You also have a 12-volt power outlet here, which I would have wished that these are USBs, but well, at least we have a power outlet. And we also have a center armrest here with a couple of cup holders. Now, ISOFIX also comes as standard here in this third generation Sorento. So all of these toys, well, are pretty good. Now, if we only had a panoramic sunroof, well, this would have been perfect. Alright guys, so I'm now here at the third row seats of the Kia Sorento, and surprisingly, I am quite comfortable even here in the last row. I'm 5'6" guys, and I still got around 3 inches of knee room space before my knee would touch the second row seats. However, when it comes to the headroom though, my headroom space is only 1.5 inches left before my head touches the headliner, mainly because the roof line kind of slopes downwards towards the back of the Sorento, so maybe that's the reason why my headroom space is a little bit cut off. But if you are 5'6" or below, this third row space would be quite comfortable for you even on a long drive. Now, another thing that adds to the comfort, guys, is the fact that, well, we've got a couple of cup holders here in the third row, and we also have rear AC vents for the third row seats, including their own separate blower control. So that's pretty good, and that also tells me that this Kia Sorento is really meant for, well, to be a family hauler more than anything else. Now let's hop back to the driver's seat and take this Sorento out for a drive just to show you what kind of behavior it does on the road. Alright guys, so we're now behind the wheel of the Kia Sorento 4x4 EX80, and right off the bat, I could tell you that it doesn't feel like I'm driving a mid-size SUV. It also doesn't feel like I'm driving a mid-size crossover, but rather it feels like I'm driving, of all things, a minivan. Mainly because of the large space that I have here in front of me. You've got a nice wide dashboard there, and it feels like I'm driving a much bigger vehicle than what the Sorento would suggest. Now, as I mentioned in my review, the seats are phenomenal. You know, these Sorento seats, these are some of the best seats in the business. I love the feeling of assurance that I have whenever I feel these bolsters that I have on the sides of my body. And going to this location, guys, it was a bit of a long drive, but I did not encounter any seat fatigue at all while I was driving this Kia Sorento. Now, in terms of acceleration, I'm happy to report that this diesel-powered Kia Sorento has a good amount of oomph at the lower end of the rev range. You see, torque comes in pretty quickly, and I love how they tuned the 8-speed automatic transmission here. It can give me the power when I need it, every time I need it, guys. So yes, in terms of acceleration, the Sorento delivers like a crossover or like an SUV. It is not underpowered at all, and it could give you the goods every single time. However, when we go over to the steering feel of the Kia Sorento, now this is a motorized power steering assembly, so that means that it will tighten up whenever it feels that the car is going at a faster speed. And it does that. It does just that. However, I couldn't really explain it quite well, guys, but the steering feel is a bit on the vague side. In terms of steering response, the Sorento's not really too responsive, and when it comes to its steering geometry, it's not as sharp as well. Granted, this is a mid-size crossover that kind of looks like a minivan already, so yes, I would say that the steering feel kind of resembles that of a minivan more than an SUV, more than a sporty SUV. And to further compound that minivan feel of this Sorento, well, the ride quality is purely on the comfort side. It's quite obvious that the Kia Sorento has been fully Americanized because, well, the suspension kind of wallows a bit. It feels like I'm piloting a boat. This is pretty similar to some of the American SUVs that I've driven in the past. And it feels like the suspension wallows a bit in the corners. You feel like you're floating. So when it comes to sharpness of handling, it's not there. In fact, my second generation Sorento had a much sharper handling than this third generation model. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, guys. You see, going to this location, I brought my family with me, I brought my kids with me, and we love the fact that despite if, let's say, you're going through a not so perfect road like what we're going through now, this is not really that much of an even road. This is a cement road, guys. So the good thing there is it absorbs all the imperfections on the road. It doesn't transmit into the cabin, and that would give you a supremely comfortable ride. True, it would wallow a bit when you're going on corners and whatnot, but well, this is the compromise that you have to take if you want to prioritize on the comfort aspect of your crossover. And that's exactly where this Kia Sorento shines. You see, the NVH levels of this crossover is phenomenal, guys. Despite being powered by a diesel mill, well, you don't really hear that diesel rattle and there are no vibrations to be found inside the cabin. Granted, when I'm accelerating at full clip, yes, you could hear a little bit that diesel engine noise, and it will tell you that you are driving a diesel-powered vehicle, but it is not really that noisy and it's not harsh at all. So that's the main, the main attraction of this Kia Sorento. Despite being a mid-size SUV or more like a crossover now, it has premium levels of NVH inside the cabin. Overall, guys, this third generation Kia Sorento can give you that awesome diesel performance, and you've got that crossover refinement with a cabin space that could rival that of a minivan. It's an overall good contender, except that the performance aspect has been compromised. But then, well, people don't really buy these vehicles for performance, guys. People buy these vehicles for the practicality and for the refinement and comfort when it comes to the drive. And in that regard, guys, well, the Kia Sorento delivers in spades. So, is it a good bet to wait for the upcoming 4th generation Kia Sorento or get one of these current model 3rd generation units at a steal? Well, the 4th generation Sorento does have a newer look and it has more tech features and amenities, but it will also come at a much higher price point. This current model 3rd generation Sorento gives you a good combination of comfort and tech in a very easy to drive package. In fact, this current generation Sorento is the most comfortable minivan, crossover, that I've driven in any of my car reviews. Add to that proven and reliable diesel mill, and you've got quite a compelling package in this current model 3rd generation Kia Sorento. Thanks for watching.